Greetings and welcome to another CTV 20 segment of In the Boardroom. I'm John Chambers, still the Byram Hills Superintendent of Schools, although on October 9th, the Board of Education accepted my resignation due to be effective at the end of the school year. And so we're here to talk about leadership transition. I have with me Vice President of the Board, Gail Reese. Gail, thank you for coming on to In the Boardroom. We appreciate you being here.
It's my pleasure, my pleasure.
And later on, you and I will have the pleasure of inviting a special guest into the show who will be the key player in leadership transition.
That will be a delight, a delight. John, before we go on, I want to take a moment to thank you from the board and really from the whole community for giving us such ample time to plan for your succession. We've heard as a board for the last couple of years the importance of succession planning, and now we really see where this is going to help the entire community, because as we look at the significance of losing a leader like you, we realize the importance of being able to plan carefully.
Thank you, Gail. I appreciate the chance to work with the board on that planning as much as I appreciate working in Byram Hills. I've had a great career working in great school districts. But I admit Byram Hills has become my favorite because of the quality of the people here, the quality of the education here. And the litmus test for me is if I could pick any school district for my grandchildren to attend, it would be Byram Hills. But I'm not done yet. We're here in November of the school year, and I don't finish up until the end of the school year. We have a lot to do before the end in this whole succession planning topic, because although we're dealing already with the superintendent's job, we've got many leadership positions that we need to think about very carefully in the course of this year.
Well, that's what I was referencing before, John. 2 years ago, when you brought to the board the idea of having succession planning as one of our board goals, you can remember the reaction with, we want to be focused on curriculum or more current issues. But we see your wisdom now, and we see it even more as we hear the statistics. Last night I was at a Westchester Putnam School Boards Association dinner, and again I heard the statistic of 63% of the superintendents in the next 4 years are expected to be retiring, which tells us that beyond just and then they go on to say beyond just the superintendent's position, we're going to be challenged to find leaders in all levels of administration. So that succession planning goal, which we've done most of our conversation in executive session because of the sensitivity of the personnel piece, is something that I think we should try now to share a little bit with our community and let them know what efforts we've gone into over the last 2 years to understand both what's out in the marketplace, what our requirements in Byram Hills are, and also look at the many talented administrators that we have within our school system.
I think you're right that we need to talk about what the board's been doing, because a succession planning goal was appropriate for executive session, but not everybody got to join us in executive session. So you want us to think back over what we talked about there, like the fact that so many superintendents were retiring, like the fact that high school principals positions are really hard to fill now. In fact, any principal's position. That it's really hard to find special education directors, up and down the whole list. So when we went up and down that whole list of leadership positions, we were looking at all the factors that have made it a different game. The factors like the shortage of people applying for the positions. And I remember us also looking at the advice of search consultants. I remember you all contacting the New York State School Boards Association, and with my help contacting the State Superintendent's Group, all to gain a background understanding of what's changed and why are there so few applicants for these important jobs now.
Well, and also with any of us, when we're out at the many dinners and different conferences that we go to, we hear this same message over and over again of how difficult it is to find strong administrative candidates.
But we have an advantage here in Byram Hills that most districts don't enjoy. our leadership team right now, in the 20-some leadership positions we have in the district, is the strongest I have ever worked with in my whole career. And I've always worked with really good leadership teams. But Byram Hills right now is tremendously advantaged by having such a strong group of leaders, people we can look to step up to other leadership positions as we go forward.
It's an advantage, but it's also presented quite a challenge for us because we look at what we have now is nearly perfect. So that's why we look at you and your exciting future ahead in retirement, and we're happy for you, but we realize that it's very challenging for us, and our community is going to expect to have, they've reached a level of expectation of excellence with our administrators in our schools, and it's a challenge for us to find a way to, what's the word for that, kind of have that continuing excellence.
Well, I think you've already met the biggest part of that challenge. The board has shown its wisdom in announcing the appointment of Dr. Jackie Taylor as the next superintendent who will succeed me at the end of the school year. And if you're worried about the board being equal to this challenge, think about the reception you got when you announced that Jackie would be the next superintendent.
Clearly that was my happiest day as a school board member, was being able to be part of that announcement and watching that group of people just pour their hearts out to Jackie. And considering the 11 years that Jackie spent in this district and the knowledge that she has of our district, you're right, John. If we have to lose you, we are very fortunate to have Dr. Taylor there to attempt to fill your shoes.
And clearly everybody agreed. I've never seen so many standing ovations in one board meeting.
Well, we had to have one for you also, so that doubled the number.
So Jackie, it's really our honor to tell you that tonight, on behalf of the board, I'm going to sign the contract that will engage you to be the Byram Hills Superintendent of Schools beginning on July 1st, 2008. We wish you not only a successful completion this year, but a long and happy tenure as our leader. We have every confidence that you will acquit yourself nobly and with utter distinction, and we congratulate you.
So, Gail, now we have Dr. Jacqueline Taylor with us in the boardroom. Jackie, welcome to the show. And may I say again, congratulations on your appointment as the next superintendent of the Byram Hills School District. And say how personally delighted I am to see you named to this job. I think it's a very deliberately planned step, an amply deserved step, and one that's going to be very good for the Byram Hills schools. I couldn't be happier.
Thank you, John. I'm really honored to be the Byram Hills superintendent. The evening of my appointment was one of the most wonderful nights of my career. It was, Gail and John, indeed my pleasure over the last 11 years to work in this community. I've admired the board. They've had great vision for wonderful facilities, a terrific faculty that they've supported in so many ways, and incredible programs for our children. We've grown into a marvelous and excellent school district that had a strong base with a strong tradition. For my administrative colleagues, John, you know I adore our administrative team. They motivate me every day. Our work on performance assessments, cultural proficiency, now sustainability, really differentiation, trying to bring the best to our classrooms for our children, for every child's learning experience, really, after I believe it's now 37 years in public education, still gets me really excited. Our teaching staff, I'm very proud of them. They are, without a doubt, I'm sure of this, the most talented teaching staff in New York State. Why do I have such confidence? I've had the great pleasure of being part of interview teams for many of them, most of them actually after 11 years now, but I've been in their classrooms. I've read literally dozens of their observations and evaluations, and our students get a good education in Byram Hills. Then, of course, I always felt really comfortable in Byram Hills, really from the first day I arrived. And Gail, I remember you were on the interview team.
Yes, I was. My proudest moment.
That interviewed me back 12 years ago. But I felt naturally comfortable because I feel like I relate so well to the parents of Byram Hills, because the parents of Byram Hills want for your children, for our children, a great education every single year, K-12. No excuses, every year a great education. And that's what I wanted for my two sons. So I understand that desire and that goal and that passion that parents have for their children. Then, of course, we've seen over these last few years how our support staff, these beautiful facilities, our custodians, our secretaries, our teacher aides, our bus drivers, how they've worked to bring it all together to make us all look so good. And then, John, I really could not be here without your support, your guidance over these years. You and I have worked so hard on character education. You really stood tall. You told us what we needed to be as a school district. And when we set those goals, respect for self and others, respectful dialogue, service and kindness, you are my exemplar. You are the exemplar for the district of how one should behave and conduct themselves and be a leader of great integrity. So you can see I am so proud to follow John. I know that with the support of the community and our teaching staff and our administrative staff, good things are in our future, and I'm really excited, although I'm so pleased to have these last few months with John to learn very well, and I will commit to very strong learning over the next few months.
That was beautifully said, Jackie. You know, it's funny because that's exactly what it is continuous learning. We spend so much time with our students and our curriculum trying to continuously improve it. And you look at somebody like you that's been here for 11 years and done so many wonderful things for this district. You look at you, John, who, you know, came to us with such experience, but everybody can always improve and always grow. And I think we're very fortunate to have these next several months that the two of you can work together and kind of perfect what we have already. So we're really fortunate.
Well, we're fortunate because we've been able to work with Jackie, and we know her quality. Thank you for your good words about us, too.
Well, it's really a delight. It's fun to talk about both of you and the board in our community. It's really exciting to me.
Just in case there's anybody out there who hasn't worked directly with you, let's say a little bit about Jackie's credentials that might not be familiar to everyone. Doctorate from Fordham University, widely respected not just in Byram Hills but in the education community, partly because you've been a leader in groups like the Tri-State Consortium of Schools, like the Curriculum Committee at Northern Westchester BOCES, like the work that you've done consulting with other school districts, like your adjunct professorships at Manhattanville and at Pace. All those things help Jackie be more established among the whole field and respected by people in and beyond Byram Hills.
You know, it's, as I listen to you, John, and think back over the last really several months, if not a year, the conversations that the board's had of trying to decide what's the best approach considering your retirement. And we all knew unanimously that Jackie was the best choice for Byram Hills, but you always want to make sure that everybody understands how you come to that conclusion. And we have so much direct contact with you and see what you're doing in our schools every day, but not everybody has that advantage. And so a meeting like this, a conversation like this that really points out to people not only the wonderful things that you've done in the district, which they can see and hear about through their children, but also your background and credentials. We talked about it many times. If we went out for a search, we would be laughed at by the people in the other districts, and at the same time we would risk, which would be the greatest loss, having you snatched away from us. And so we're just so pleased as a school board to have the support of our community, of our administrators, of the faculty, and be able to have you as our superintendent. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful transition, a wonderful future.
Smart board decision. There's only one downside I can think of, and that's the fact that when Jackie becomes a superintendent on July 1st, she won't be able to be the deputy superintendent for curriculum and personnel anymore. So we said at the outset of the program that this was about the superintendent transition, but also about all our other leadership openings. There's one. We have to figure out what to do about replacing Jackie's job. And here we are taping at the beginning of November. Later in the month, we're going to be talking in a public board meeting about exactly that. What do we do with that job?
I think we have that agendaed for a November 20th meeting, as we're busily again talking about what exactly your job entails and how we would fill those shoes.
Well, thank you for your kind words. You're making me blush a little. But we're up for the work. As John said earlier, we have an incredible administrative team. So we'll be making a lot of thoughtful reflections on how to fill the upcoming positions. We also already have our ad out for the Coleman Hill principalship, our science chairperson, and our guidance chairperson. Those are really important positions for our district, in addition to the district office positions that are now opened. But we're up to the task, and the great reputation of Byram Hills, we hope will attract some really fine, excellent candidates to the district.
I'm realizing as you talk, Jackie, another thing that we talked a lot with the board about over the last 2 years is why it's so difficult to fill these positions. And we should probably say here, demographics are a real factor. The people who would be coming up and be credentialed and ready to take administrative jobs now might have been hired as teachers in the 1980s. But in the 1980s, school enrollments were declining in Byram Hills, in Westchester, around the country. So those teachers weren't being hired. And it left a demographic gap in the profile of people who work in schools. So that cadre of people wasn't moving up the ranks and are not ready now to be principals and superintendents. So districts are going to have to think differently about how we do this. Jackie mentioned she's got an ad in the New York Times already at the beginning of November for 3 leadership jobs in the district. That's very different from the way things happened before.
Yeah, the whole field is changing. There's a shift that's happening. I mentioned this. We had a great group of teachers and administrators who came in for our annual interview training. Administrative jobs are more difficult these days. It's very hard to find that right balance between family and work. There's a lot of evening work for our administrators. And Westchester County is a very hard county for candidates from other parts of the country to move into. And when the expectation is you will be here a few evenings a week, then you need to live close. So that's a factor also that's made administrative positions very difficult for Westchester County and other high-cost areas, as well as the expectations to meet the needs of all children. And it's very hard to disappoint parents when they're not feeling like we met their children's needs, and administrators who are excellent really care about that, and the accountability feels very overwhelming at times to people. So administrative jobs are not desirable as they were years ago when I was a young teacher.
When you were a youngster.
When I was a kid.
Well, you both point out, really exactly the conversations we've been having over the last several months about the difficulty of finding good, strong administrators. And again, I go back to the fact that the board for 2 years now has had this succession planning goal. And when we were first introduced to this, what you said to us, John, was not so specifically, but this exact point, which was it's going to be harder and harder, and we need to start looking at the talent that we have here in Byram Hills. And we're blessed with quite a talented faculty and very talented administrators. So we have been looking at those people, working with them. We've had administrators that have left that we remain in contact with, thanks to really the both of you and your leadership. So I feel that we're well positioned, but we have a lot of work to do. And we'll see how we go.
One of the ways we've agreed we're doing that work is by looking at the members of our current leadership team to see, are they equal to the next step? Jackie's appointment is an obvious example of that. But another way we're doing that is, in addition to looking just within our own leadership team, we're participating in consortia with other schools that will try to identify candidates, bring them together in a graduate program, and serve the needs of other Westchester districts at the same time. You mentioned that that could be to our advantage in the long run. Even if another district hires someone, we can keep an eye on that person, and maybe someday there'll be an opening in Byram Hills appropriate for that person too. So we're doing it as a leadership team in Byram Hills, but also working with other schools that have the same needs.
And it's an important thing, again, referencing the dinner I went to last night. I sat next to a superintendent down in Blindbrook who had the advantage of being a superintendent in 3 different districts. And he said, I just kept growing and learning more things. And as much as we benefit from having people from within that know our district and know our students and know our community, you benefit also from people coming in with new insights. So we really, I think, have been fortunate up till now, and it looks that we're going to continue to be fortunate to have kind of a blend, which really, I think, benefits all of us.
Well, we've certainly got our work cut out for us in the remainder of the year. Jackie mentioned the 3 positions that she's already advertised. We've mentioned that we need to fill her position, or probably first talk about, can we reasonably fill that position with just one person? Then make a decision there, and the whole chain of position openings will unfold. We could even have, before the year is out, retirements. Administrators need to tell us by January 1st if they intend to retire at the end of the school year. So this, I feel like this is one of the biggest things the board has to do, not just this year, but at any time.
Yeah, it doesn't, as much as we can see right now, the kind of transition plan falling down from the superintendent's level, we also can see that this is something that is going to continue for the next several years. And I would be surprised not to see it be a board goal for many years to come.
Yeah, I have said in many meetings, for all people who care deeply about public education, this is the challenge for our region, for our state, for our nation, though, to have excellent teachers and administrators and school board members, for sure, leading our schools.
Well, I feel like Byram Hills is off to a great start on that challenge with Dr. Taylor's appointment as the next superintendent, with the board's wisdom in making that appointment, but also your foresight in recognizing that there are still more of these challenges ahead. One other challenge occurs to me, Jackie. How are you going to host in the boardroom and ask Dr. Jackie on CTV 20? I don't know how you'll do both.
You know, John, I've been thinking about that, but I'm counting on this wonderful crew for CTV 20. Elise Traina, Joy Varley, Mike Pabora, and I met some wonderful parent volunteers yesterday. So I'm going to have a lot of good advice givers to help me, but I'm going to keep Ask Dr. Jackie because I love that show because I get to highlight our teachers.
Great show, and you can leave us with an advertisement for more of those parent volunteers who can help out with CTV 20 and student volunteers too. They will help us do other shows in the future, and we can close by looking ahead to those other shows where we'll have more news about our leadership transitions and also more episodes of Ask Dr. Jackie coming up in the future. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks. This
Thank
was
you,
great.
John. Thank you, Gail.
And welcome.
Thank you.
Good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Join the CTV20 crew. If you would like to volunteer, please email us at ctv20@byramhills.org or call us at 273-9200 extension 385. Thanks for watching CTV20.